dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it'll change your life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dungeon Master of None.
I am Dungeon, your dad's DM, Matt.
And I am Dungeon Rocking the Casbah, Rob.
I was going to go with Dungeon Immovable Rod. Kind of dropped the last consonant.
Matt, the immovable mobject. Anyway, you're listening to an actual podcast about Dungeons and Dragons. And today we've got something, pretty standard actually. We have a lot of mail. If you have written to us and we have not responded to you, as always, I'm sorry. Matt's not sorry. Matt has a strong opinion on this, but I am sorry.
I don't care, but we will have some really good Dungeon Master advice for you, even if it's not your letter. Hey, Rob, how's your games going? What's the state of play?
Can I be honest with you? Can I get real with you? Sure. Imagine, listeners, that I have turned my chair around and I am sitting backwards in it. The truth is, Matt, that I was suffering some pretty serious DM burnout. And so I have put both of my games on hold for, the foreseeable future. Probably maybe the summer, but maybe not that long. But I realized that, what with everything going on, world historical health crisis, world historical economic crisis, world historical civil unrest, that I was having trouble maintaining my focus and enthusiasm on anything, much less two D&D games that I was supposed to be preparing for and running. So my games are not going, to answer your question.
That is okay. There are more important things happening basically all the time, but especially like right now. I mean, we're in a possible turning point in the history of the United States as people struggle to get out from under the boot that they've been under for centuries.
I want to be clear that even in dire times, there is always room for play and for joy. After all, Matt, if your revolution does not include dancing, then I want no part in it. But it's also okay if you don't have, like, for example, if you are somebody who is a dungeon master and has to do preparation and, maintain focus and run the game, if you don't have as much energy as you used to do for those things. So I really enjoyed my games and I'm hoping to get back to them, but I just realized that I was not going to be able to stay on top of them and focus, and I was feeling real burned out. So
that's okay. Hiatus. We need bread and rose playing games too.
A choke on my beer. Rose playing
games.
The DSA rose playing caucus.
Oh no. I was also feeling a lot of burnout, but like I had more limited space to I don't know, get out and do things. So everyone has to make their own decision. I doubled down and over the last week played a lot more role-playing games. Here's a suggestion for everyone who hasn't tried it yet. For over your Zoom or Skype calls or whatever, I have found that really simple one-page games have been really a lifesaver for me. They don't require more than 10 minutes of prep, and they're lots of fun. Things like Honey Heist, Lasers and Feelings, or All Out of Bubblegum, which I've played all three of in the last week. Super easy, super fast. Game could be an hour. You're done. No prep.
Yeah.
Dungeon Master, no prep caucus.
I have actually, one of the things I'm probably going to do is put my long-running games on hiatus, and then I might grab some one-shots or pre-made modules, something that doesn't require quite as much thinking or preparation.
Dude, try Lasers and Feelings. Get wacky with it.
I very well may. My
characters have one stat. You just need a 6-sided die. It's a one-page game.
Yeah, I will probably do that after I have recovered a little bit. But yeah, if you are having trouble with focus, and this is a thing I have to remind myself of, is you can do something else. You can play a different game. You can take a break. You can run a one-shot.
It is okay to take a break.
I hope they don't listen to this, but I was sort of hoping that one of or more of my players might step up and run something for a few sessions.
Come on, wait.
But that's okay. It's okay that they haven't. It's a lot of work for everybody. But anyway, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, you always expect when you're like, hey, yeah, everyone, I really need a 1 month break from Dungeon Mastering. That someone would be like, oh, great, I've been working for 6 months on something. Yeah, that's a 1 in 20 chance.
It doesn't happen as often.
But you might get a critical.
Yeah. Doesn't happen as often as you'd like. So we're gonna do some oh wait. Well, you kind of answered this, but how are your games going? I have missed them, but I know you've been running some like you said, 1-pagers.
Some noir mystery, which is tough because nothing happens in noir for a really long time, and you don't understand what's going on until the very end. So that's a tough one. But I think it went well. Just something to keep in mind. You got to add interesting things in because everything's boring until the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's noir.
Okay, so we're going to answer some letters and hopefully have some useful advice for you.
Okay.
Again, sorry if we missed your letters. We're going to do our best to work through them.
We just got an email. I wonder who it's from.
All right, Rob, you want to take us away with our first letter?
Sure. So this one's from way back when we talked about initiative, and we got some pretty cool responses from that. A lot of you are very clever when it comes to doing initiative, and so we wanted to read out some of these. So this first one is from Russ, and Russ writes, "Thanks for the discussion on managing initiative and various options around that. I wanted to add some additional thoughts that might be useful for folks. One thing I've been doing for a while now is having initiative pre-rolled. When the group is in role-playing mode and things go poorly, I just start calling on them for their actions in initiative order as we slide into combat. Once things are settled after combat and we're ready to transition to the next scene, we roll it up again.
Perfect.
For visibility, we've traditionally used some magnetic components I made on a magnetic dry erase board. One is a strip of numbers in descending order with an N at the top and a Z at the bottom. Ninjas to zombies, of course. And the rest are magnetic.
I've never heard of that.
I like it.
Ninjas go first. They're fast. Zombies last. Okay.
Slow.
All right.
The rest are magnetic strips with characters' names printed on them. Russ sent us a picture of this, and it's awesome. I think it's okay cool for us to share it, so we'll post it. Not having to write or erase saves a lot of time and hassle. And then there's one last piece of advice that Russ has, which I think is just top notch. I'm a big fan. Right now, while we're playing virtually, I have a scripted Excel workbook that can reset the list, randomly rolling any NPCs, or sort the initiative with just a button, saving a lot of time and hassle. I love this idea. I think it's great, especially if you're playing virtually. He keeps that visible in a screen share for when it is needed for everyone to see. Thanks again for the great thoughts and analysis. Have a better one, Russ. Russ, this rules. Thank you so much for sharing. These are both great ideas. You are more organized than I am, by far.
Yeah, they're really, I feel like people are afraid to do pre-rolled initiative. You're like, oh, my players are gonna game the system. I'm like, this game is about gaming the system half of the time.
Yeah.
It's okay that they know that the wizard is gonna go first in the next combat.
Mm-hmm.
It is totally fine. In fact, there is nothing better than knowing. You can have it pre-rolled.
I love this idea. The only thing that I think that might not be as enjoyable is that there's a certain tension and drama when you're rolling right as battle happens, but I would happily trade that for being able to just jump into the battle much faster, especially if you have something like this Excel spreadsheet or chart set up so that you can just start fighting. That's what you love to see.
Does it spark joy? Does you saying roll for initiative spark joy among your players? If it doesn't, and if you notice it takes just an insanely long time, get rid of it.
Get rid of it. And to be truthful, a lot of the time it does not spark joy. A lot of the time my players groan with when it comes time to do combat. So
thanks, Russ, for writing. Rob, don't forget to not click while you're talking. All right. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just trying to keep. I'm trying to be like good data discipline here, Matt. I'm moving it to the answered column.
You are moving it to the answered column. I see that. That's good. We got to stay organized.
Got to stay organized.
Like Russ.
Like Russ. Thank you, Russ.
Okay, here's another initiative one. This one's from Jeremiah. Dear Matt and Rob, noob DM here. Recently, I listened to the episode where you were discussing initiative. While I currently just use the regular 5e rules for this, both for myself and my players to just keep track on their own, I have used a different method when I run, and occasionally do run, fate games. Not faith games, fate games. It's called dramatic initiative. The way it goes is is like this, starting with whichever character makes the most sense in the scene, and then that player NPC picks the next most logical person to go next. Every person NPC must take 1 turn per round, and you can't take more than 1 turn per round. Once everyone's taking a turn, it's back to the first person. It seems to me that this works well for creating a dramatic narrative, but I'll let you be the judge. Do you like it, Rob?
I do like it. Well, I mean, I have also I've played in Fate games, and I like the Fate system. It's a light system, but I generally like it. And I love the idea behind this. It's just that I have found, and maybe this is just years of conditioning, but that D&D players tend to be, listen, there are 2 axes of role-playing games, right? Imagine a chart with a y-axis and an x-axis, and there's
I don't know. I can picture the x-axis, Rob, but I'm having trouble seeing the y.
There's drama nerd and there's math nerd, right?
Sure.
So D&D, in my experience, tends to be math nerd, high up there.
Yes.
Fate tends to be drama nerd. And so, you can expect your dramaturges, your theater kids to behave and get along and mostly cooperate when it comes to something like dramatic initiative. But I have found, and again, maybe this is conditioning and just like years of D&D trauma, but my experience is that D&D players want to know who's got the biggest numbers, and they want to know exactly when and why. So yeah. I love the idea of dramatic initiative. I'm skeptical of how well it would work in D&D.
I think there's no problem using it in D&D. Me personally, right? I've played enough Powered by the Apocalypse games or any other system that just like doesn't have rules for initiative, and this system right here works fine, even if it's like something even more open end with just like whoever wants to or feels it's appropriate goes first, right? And then if no one speaks up, the dungeon master will go ahead. But now I'm also thinking, so if you have x-axis math nerd, y-axis drama nerd, could we add a z-axis, which is dungeon master like initiatives to basically no dungeon master initiative / no dungeon master list games, and you could plot all role-playing games on a 3-dimensional space?
I mean, yes, but I'm not smart enough to plot that.
If you know how to plot a scatter plot on a 3D plot,
yeah, if anybody can show us a three-dimensional chart, please tell us how to do it so we can place all games on. I guess we could do one of those. We do like a political compass. No, wait, no. We need it. We need it. Never mind.
No, it has to be 3-dimensional.
It has to be 3-dimensional.
3-dimensional. No, yeah, it would have to be like one of those things that you can grasp with the Minority Report Iron Man gloves and turn it around. I mean, unless they made like a software program that could make things in 3D. The technology isn't there yet.
That's ridiculous. Nobody has that.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to that when we can plot things in 3D. Oh, sorry, I'm doing Jeremiah wrong here. Now for my question. Minutes ago, I finished another session with my players. At the end, they commented on how much stuff they have to do, plot hooks in the actual world that are world ending, that will happen in the background and will change the world if the PCs don't do them. One of my players, who's also a DM in his own game, mentioned that he would like less epic, less world-ending type quests. Thinking about it, I agree. Not every issue will lead to some world-changing event. How do I go about giving them less epic world-changing quests while still making things really interesting? P.S. I took Matt's recommendation just to introduce redneck dwarves to my players, so now they know there are country hillbilly dwarves that also love to hunt giant frogs. Not sure how they feel about them, but I might need to be a better hillbilly. All right, thanks, Jeremiah.
This is a good question. So what happens to me sometimes, I've had this problem too, is that I will drop a bunch of different hooks, but if it's not world ending, the players sometimes ignore it, and so then they end up with all of these hooks that are of great importance, and they feel stressed out about trying to handle them all. So what I try to do is I try to attach them.
Don't turn your poor players into like #adulting with too many responsibilities.
What I like to do is one way to add stakes and intensity to your non existential threats is to have them center around an NPC or a location that they like or are excited about.
Yeah.
This is
one of the characters, right?
Yeah. Have it be related to one of their backstories, or this is why you give them a tavern or a boat. Don't give them a boat, give them a tavern. Or have them make friends with a tavern keeper that they like, or any number of other NPCs, or things that they can get attached to that will also then motivate them to and interest them, right? So that they know that it's important or they should care.
Yeah.
And this is tricky. It's easy.
It is tricky.
It's easy to be like, well, the world will end if you don't do this, so
I guess we're doing that thing. We don't really have a choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Rob, you get what I'm saying here. Your game has become Star Trek Picard, right?
when you want to be players, you want to be Star Trek Voyager at best,
right? Or just the original series or the next generation, right? You're in the later seasons of Deep Space Nine. Everything is revolved around this one big plot. There's a space monster that's going to blow up the entire galaxy, and your players want something like lower stakes than that. Watch some episodic TV, right? Before TV became what it is, when there was plots that were resolved within an episode. Go back to the classics, too, right? We love our classics here. A crashed spaceship near the player's home. That's not world-ending. It is interesting, though. There's a haunted house.
There's a serial killer. People are turning up dead in the streets,
There's a spy discovered in the political organization the players are next to.
They're on trial. That's a good one. Speaking of Star Trek classics, there's a trial that they either have to participate in or adjudicate.
There's a mortal in their town claiming to be a god. He's probably not.
Classic one, yeah.
The queen has lycanthropy.
Demagogue shows up in town denouncing the party as, I don't know, charlatans and liars and murderers and
may or may not be true.
Turning people against them.
Okay, I think this is a problem solved. Thanks, Jeremiah. Great question.
Right, one more initiative-related letter. This one comes from Adam. Adam writes, "Hey guys, great episode. At first I was like 70 minutes of talking about initiative, but it was all very good and thought-provoking. We definitely knew that it was going to turn out to be that way. I also wasn't sure I was going to have 70 minutes in me, but boy, was I wrong.
I knew all along.
I love the idea of Savage Worlds quick draw every round, and we'll probably pull that out for the right kinds of encounters.
The key point is to use Yu-Gi-Oh cards instead of regular player cards. Some of your players may not get it at first, but they'll grow on it.
You have to use the tarot deck that Aleister Crowley
no one
made.
can read.
Yeah, if you don't do that, then it doesn't actually work. So make sure that you have the precise Crowley.
The worst art tarot deck.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay. We'll come back next week and rank the tarot decks.
Yeah, we should do that. We'll make everybody angry at us. Love the idea for chases and non-traditional combats like a sinking ship. I have a Gloomstalker with the alert feat who gets 11 to her initiative and is very proud of it, so I have to be careful about that.
Ooh, yes, you should.
You should. I respect players to do that, but that is one of the things that sort of like guarantees that they'll always go first, and that's fine. It's fine.
Have them draw twice,
Let's see. Adam continues. I also have a DM who will every once in a while use our marching order as initiative. I like that because it leads to a whole lot more investment in deciding who goes first/last. I think that's a great idea. That's a perfectly good suggestion.
This is it's the Pathfinder. What is everyone doing / in what order are they in? There's your initiative. Great for games that don't have initiative mechanics too.
Just writing in to say that I used to write it all on a scrap of paper, briefly experimented with a whiteboard, but then bought the Essentials kit which comes with initiative cards numbered 1 through 10. When we move into combat, there's always a bit of an awkward break as I get out the minis, lay out the map. In true DM of an Unfashion, I've started delegating initiative to the players. Good! Delegate!
Yes. Make them do the work.
I set the cards out in the middle, have them figure out the order on their own while I'm getting combat set up on the table. And then I decide where the monsters / NPCs go based on common sense. In our COVID reality, Roll20 also has a setting that allows players to enter the initiative roll into the turn order itself, which is...
they can do it with a button click if it actually works.
Again, I have found that in certain ways, virtual play is draining in ways that I did not anticipate. That being said, Roll20 makes it easy for you, especially with something like initiative. Anyhow, delegating this dreary task to the players to figure out while I get combat admin setup has been a lifesaver. Y'all are the best, especially in these crazy times of being cooped up. Thanks for the podcast, and keep on rolling them dice. Adam, thank you so much for writing in.
Thanks, yes. Thanks for this advice. Whenever you can delegate a menial task like this to the players, you should.
This is funny. One of the things that I consistently fail to delegate is keeping track of loot. And I really don't want to keep track of loot, and so I tell the players to designate somebody as their, loot keeper. And every game I have, they just drop the ball, and I'm like, don't you have a potion of whatever? And they're like, oh, do we? And I'm like, yes, you do. Didn't you write it down?
Listen, here's some advice. I'm gonna own you with my teacher magic here.
Ooh, yeah, okay.
Here, you take this obviously won't work right now, but at any other time, you take one of your mini notebooks that is lying around that has nothing in it, and you be like, here's the treasure notebook for the party. Who wants it? And someone will take it because it's a thing. It's a magic thing. People are material creatures. They desire
It's actually a super good idea, and I have a ton of notebooks that would be good for this. So in the distant future, when I'm allowed to see people in person, I'll be sure to hand out a treasure notebook.
Rob accidentally hands the wrong moleskin notebook to one of his players, and she opens it. And she's like, Angorn the Barbarian's muscles rippled as he pulled his axe from the skull of the werebeast and gazed across the desert sands.
Matt is mocking.
His orbs shining.
Matt is mocking what is in my notebooks, but it's actually much more erotic than that.
Yeah. No, it's much better than that. Rob is a much better short fiction writer. Maybe just some of his stuff from high school.
Oh yeah. Ugh. That's a nightmare.
This reminds me, Rob, have you ever read The Eye of Argon?
That sounds super familiar.
It was like one of those so like someone typed it up in their like high school I don't know, theater class, and it got sent around to a magazine and published, and it was like just a Robert Howard short story, but it was so bad it was good that it kept getting reprinted and showed around. It's kind of a sad story in that like the person who wrote it was 17 and maybe didn't want other people to read it and felt embarrassed and sad. But everyone like kind of loves it.
Sounds
I don't
familiar.
know.
I think I did read that at one point, and I definitely remember The Eye of Argon. Yeah.
I feel like some other podcast has had to have talked about it by now, or I would suggest we've done it.
Almost certainly.
We do it. But anyway. Here's our next letter, Rob. Hey, I recently found your podcast on Spotify, and I'm loving it. I'm listening from the start, and I just finished your episode on Edition Wars Gatekeeping from February 20. Probably weirdly late to be throwing in my 2 cents, especially as someone who's only been playing for a year.
It's never too late, Georgina, to write to us about the Edition Wars, which it's a Cold War, but they're never really over.
Yes. We always need more recruits for the fresh meat for the grinder.
Yeah,
send you straight to the front.
Just because nobody's clashing right now doesn't mean that the war is over.
I've talked to a bunch of old school D&Ders and heard you guys and others discuss previous editions in a variety of contexts. I think there's one aspect of 5th edition that seems to be somewhat overlooked when people are debating why it's so popular. It's very character friendly. From what I've been told, it's generally much harder to permanently die in 5e, and the game isn't really set up as a DM versus player or with the intention of people dying a lot. From what I can see, that then encourages players to get much more emotionally involved with their characters because they start playing with the expectation that this character could last them years. I think, alongside tech advancements like streaming, podcasts, etc., that's one of the reasons why actual plays have become so popular, because people can get involved in the characters and with relatively basic D&D knowledge can enjoy it. I think it means 5e appeals to and keeps the interest of people who aren't just there for the crazy stats and game-breaking magic, but who are there truly for a collaborative storytelling experience. I know it's why my partner and I got so immediately sucked in. And while I agree that WotC in some ways got lucky with the timing of 5e, that means actual plays, etc., making D&D more accessible, they also designed a game that both mechanically and thematically seems to be easier to get into for the sake of your character and their story. I think that's a big part of 5e's appeals. Sorry for the rambling message, just wanted to point out and maybe hear your thoughts. Thanks, Georgina.
Georgina, this is a good point. And I think we had discussed how, I think maybe the word that we had used in the past was that 5e is more forgiving. And I mean that in a good way. It's interesting. I have killed 2 players in and I've been DMing 5th edition for 5 years now. I think I killed a dozen players in the previous 2 or 3 years of third edition of gaming, and so that's a good point. It's a lot harder to permanently die. It's a lot harder to be killed by accident. It really takes intent.
I mean, the pedant in me will point out that D&D has basically had the same death rules since 2008. The 5e death rules are the one thing that got copied over from 4th edition, almost like word for word. However, Georgina is still right.
Nobody played 4th edition.
Well,
sorry again to all of our 4th edition fans. I don't have a problem with it. I objectively, it was not popular compared to other editions. But I this is a good point, and this was important for me to hear, Matt, because I tend to be cold and unforgiving when it comes to people's players. I'm like, well, you know what? You knew the consequences of your actions.
You made your choices.
Yeah, you walked into that lair. You jumped off the side of that ship. Now you've got to deal with the consequences. But I don't think that I have made anybody too terribly upset by killing their character. But it is important to bear in mind that some people want to have a long-term character that they're building and developing. And I always make it. Well, I always like.
This is an important session 0 thing, right?
Yeah.
Like establish, hey, do y'all want me to be the dungeon master who will kill NPCs? Never, rarely, sometimes, frequently. Like, what's your feeling?
Here's the thing: is that I also, 500 gold pieces is not an insurmountable sum. So, if players really do want to hang on to their low-level characters, I always have a NPC or an option, or they can take out a loan or something and go and get their buddy raised from the dead, so that
there'll be someone who will give them the extra cash.
Yeah. Though it's funny, one of my players, I did end up finding a way for them to rejoin the party as the same character, but they got disintegrated at level 3, which was extremely lucky. It was a very bad roll against a very unlucky or a very lucky undead beholder. It was like a 1 in 6 chance, 1 in 6 chance to roll the disintegrate I-beam, followed by a 50% chance to fail, and everything went wrong for that unfortunate player who got disintegrated at a very low level. Yeah, that was.
Sometimes you put in the 3-way parlay of winning the tip-off, double-digit points and rebounds, the Celtics winning. But sometimes it happens.
That's right.
Sometimes that's how you win. I would say the only thing I can add, since you did ask for our thoughts on this is that while I think Georgina is correct, we should not discount the sort of changing meta way that people have been playing RPGs in general. And this goes back way before 5th edition, right? And the innovation of more permanent characters or more forgiving rules to keep your characters alive did not come from WotC or D&D, right? They're just always playing catch-up, right? Mm-hmm. There's been games really since the late 80s, but really in the 90s and aughts that are like, hey, your characters are your characters, and they only die if you want to, or, you know, they can only die under these specific circumstances.
Yeah, and this is well known to us grognards, but I feel like Gygax would have been just fine if every character was like the fighter or the wizard or whatever. Like they didn't, I'm not sure, especially in the very early editions of D&D, if he was particularly attached to the character part of it, and it was more about the sort of tactical, you know, abilities that each archetype brought to the field. And as Matt has correctly pointed out, other games have been like, oh, what if you actually had a character who roleplayed and we
yes.
you know, developed over time.
And I shouldn't put this all on developers. Like, a lot of this came from people who played D&D and had the same thoughts and feelings that you did, just with maybe a less forgiving rule set. And they were like, hey, well, what if these characters were, you know, living, you know, embodiments of something that we wanted to bring to life, and they get to stick around? And them and the DMs way back when were like, yeah, let's make sure that they don't die. They don't start with 1 hit point.
Yeah,
et cetera,
right.
et cetera.
Let's make it so it's not possible to have a level 1 wizard with 4 hit points that can be instantly...
Or 1 hit point.
1 hit point. Who can be instantly killed by an errant gibberling whack or, you know, goblin arrow.
And, I mean, and people who are not a fan of 5e's still fairly deadly rules, who are like, I want a more deadly game. You know what? That is fine too.
D&D is still the deadliest, you know, of any. Yeah. Well, that's not true. But of your mainstream games, it's definitely like extremely deadly. You know, it's much harder to die in most other games.
I guess Savage World's more deadly than either you or I thought it would be.
But Savage World's also just like very swingy. Like, you will never die. And then all of a sudden, you will absolutely die. Right. You know,
you will fight a like alchemical werewolf that is 30 feet tall and soak it all, and then someone will shoot you with a revolver from 60 feet away.
And and explode 17 die in a row. Yeah.
Okay,
Georgina,
thanks, Georgina.
Thank you for writing
Great letter. Glad you're working your way through the backlog. I'm sure you'll hear this answer in a year.
Our next one is Steve, who writes to us from Surrey, England. Cheerio, Steve. Pip pip. You know, top of the morning to you. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Rob has been destroyed. Rob is he's been obliterated. He's no longer here. Sorry, sorry about that. I don't know what was going on.
The Beefeaters charged into my room and bludgeoned me to death for. Sorry, I don't know why. I'm doing this because Steve has some relevant English information to share with us.
I'm gonna start singing some Billy Bragg in a second.
Steve
writes 1649.
Steve writes. Regarding your episode on the Dungeons and Dragons movie, I have to object very strongly to your slandering of the Crystal Maze as some shitty escape room. I believe this was Matt that said this. I'm not familiar with the Crystal Maze, so
yeah, that's on me. I did Google before we watch it, what is the Crystal Maze? And I watched like a minute of it on YouTube. I'm like, what is this?
Steve writes, the Crystal Maze is a British classic, and Richard O'Brien is a national treasure. What's weird about Richard O'Brien's appearance in the movie, this is the Dungeons & Dragons movie, is that it seems to be a deliberate reference to his style of hosting on the Crystal Maze, leaning through barred windows, making disparaging jokes about the contestants as they navigate a cheaply made obstacle course. But he stopped hosting the Crystal Maze 7 years before the movie came out. Who the hell decided that his cameo would be a joke that would go down well with American audiences? Steve, this is super interesting information, and it fits with everything else that we know about the Dungeons & Dragons movie, which is that somewhere in like the bizarre decision-making apparatus.
Someone made this decision intentionally.
Yes. No,
we will just never know why.
Without any sort of idea about why they would have chosen to do this. Much like the CGI or any of the terrible writing or plot decisions or casting one of the old... I mean, they must have had like some either like British casting director or somebody with a connect, because there was also one of the doctors on the show, as that old elf. So,
oh yeah, maybe there was like a secret Brit somewhere.
But that's still just like, it's still very weird, because like I had to look up who the old elf was, because I was like, that guy looks vaguely familiar. Nobody watching Dungeons and Dragons the movie in 2000 is going to be like, aha, that's the doctor from... It's the fourth Doctor or third Doctor?
Doctor Who even popular in the United States in 2000?
No, 2000's before the Christopher Eccleston Renaissance. Like, nobody was a fan of... Wait, is that right? I think it was, and it was definitely before the next one, whose name I forget, that everyone liked. Those are the two that made it across the pond recently that people actually like. There's always been Who fans, but like it had a renaissance recently. Anyway, the whole thing's very bizarre. Steve, thank you for writing and sharing us.
Yeah, we're sorry for insulting Rob.
Matt
by Rob, I mean Richard O'Brien.
Matt is sorry for insulting Richard O'Brien.
We both take responsibility.
Anyway, thank you for writing, Steve.
If Rob could just own up to things and learn from mistakes, do a little bit of growth, Rob.
I will never learn. I will never apologize.
To St. George's Hill, a ragged band they called the Diggers came to show the people's will. They defied the landlords, they defied the laws. They were the dispossessed, reclaiming what was theirs. We come in peace, they said, to dig and sow. We come to work the lands in common and to make the waste grounds grow. This earth divided, we will...
Here's our next letter. Dear Matt and Rob, recently I came up with the idea to play a Subnautica-inspired TTRPG. I'm not sure if D&D 5e is the right system to use for this kind of game play, considering the game itself is all about underwater exploration, crafting, and survival. Is D&D 5e a good system to use, or should I try to learn another system, or should I try and develop my own system? Thank you for any information you can offer. Sincerely, signed, Noob DM.
This is an interesting question. Matt, have you played Subnautica?
I have not played Subnautica. However, I did watch the trailer of the game.
I have also not played it, but it's on my ever-growing backlog that I'll never get to because I just play more EU4 instead. But it looks really cool and fun and creepy and underwater, and I think I understand the basic gist of it. So this is
the idea is like you're a survivor of a crashed spaceship on an oceanic world, and you gotta just explore.
It's cool. I really want to play it. It looks really neat. And this is an interesting question. So Matt, I'm interested to hear your take on this. I think that the answer is probably no. That D&D 5e is probably not the right system for this game. The question is, what would be a better system? I have some
thoughts. I think my first question...
Let me say one thing with absolute certainty, though, is do not make your own system. Or if you must make something, just heavily modify an existing one, but take it from me and from Matt and from everyone we know. Don't try to build your own from scratch.
I mean, it is always better to modify something, play a campaign, and actually get the fun of playing, and then come back and be like, if I could have played that game with a better system, now I'll try and write one, right? It's better to put your work into the campaign than in the system.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, I think the question is, do you want to play a Subnautica-like game where there is lots of underwater exploration, but there's also, I don't know, krakens and sea elves and wizards and thieves? I mean, if so, then yeah, you can make D&D 5e work. I have a couple suggestions for that. But if you actually want to play like a sci-fi, like we're on an alien planet and we have sci-fi crafting and building to do, it's too much work to make that work in D&D.
Yeah, plus D&D's underwater rules are garbo, especially in this edition. They've never been good, but it's just not really like built for that.
So I could see like a D&D 5e or really any D&D edition working with this. If it was like, all right, you're shipwrecked on an island. First, you explore the island. You know, to get off of it, you've got these signs that there's this underwater civilization nearby. How are you going to get there? Oh, okay, we're going to, recover. In the tomb, it says there's all these bottles of infinite air that we can use to breathe or something, and then we're going to go underwater and then explore that. Like, if you want to make it a D&D campaign, I think you can. Mm-hmm. The underwater rules are still garbage, and I think it needs to be put out to all the players. You have to be okay with that. Like, don't play an archer. You will be sad the entire campaign, right?
Yeah. If it were me, I would take a look at one of the many broad, like, modifiable rule sets, something like Savage Worlds or GURPS or anything with, sort of like a base framework that you can...
the Savage Worlds sci-fi stuff is fine.
Is pretty good. And I would
also say, sorry, before I forget, also sci-fi wise, Stars Without Number is mostly about exploring new worlds, but one of the expansions has stuff about, exploring a single world, and there's no reason why you can't focus a campaign on that. I don't know, I can't remember, I don't think it does crafting very well, but I know it's good for sci-fi. But that's
a good suggestion, because that is about exploration, and it would be fun and pretty easy to hack that to be underwater rather than in space. But something with relatively loose rules, like Savage Worlds, where you can sort of like make up some of your own stuff for underwater specific and borrow and pick and choose, I think would probably be better than 5th edition for sure, especially if you want it to be at all sci-fi.
I have one final recommendation for this, which is Perilous Wilds, which is a pretty cheap expansion for Dungeon World. Is basically, hey, do you want to have a Dungeons and Dragons like campaign? Excuse me. Do you want to have a Dungeons and Dragons like campaign that focuses on exploration and survival? Here's the rules for that for the Dungeon World system, which is, of course, freely available as an SRD. So that might be my recommendation.
I mean, this is a good opportunity for you to poke around and take a look at what exists. Do a little bit of research. It sounds like you've got a cool idea. This sounds like a fun campaign that I'd like to give a shot at. But do some research, figure out what you're interested in. And
if you had to make it work with 5e, what would you do?
I mean,
is there anything you would do?
I would write some more underwater rules. I would write rules for underwater combat that that acted as if it was something that mattered. But you could make it work.
Yeah, some new weapons that players could discover later on, or something like that.
The thing is, it would work. It's not like you can't make it work. It would just feel weird. Yeah. I just think it would feel. I think you would notice pretty quickly that it's not designed for that.
Honestly, if you want to, for example, be like, hey, in our session 0, this is a game of underwater exploration and survival. Y'all are crash landed on an alien world or, teleported to a island in the middle of nowhere, and you've got to figure out what's going on and find your way out with that theme of Subnautica. That is fine. Make sure you telegraph that to your players in session 0, and you may find that everyone's like, well, yeah. I'm cool with being one of the 5 species that has some ability to breathe underwater.
Yeah, I would also be as part of whatever got them there, everybody has just a charm of underwater breathing, or even better, a charm of underwater breathing and swimming. The equivalent of a cloak of the manta ray. So everybody has a swim speed and can breathe underwater, just because otherwise it's going to be a huge pain. That's how I would hack this for 5th edition.
Right, or really set up in your sort of campaign flow chart, concentric circles of exploration. The first part they have to explore is in the shores and shoals, where there is minimal swimming,
that would work, yeah.
and you never have to hold your breath for more than a minute or two. And then once they find the cloaks of the manta ray for everyone in the party, or maybe tier 1 is something that lets them breathe underwater.
Right.
And then tier 2 is they find the cloaks of the manta ray. Tier 3 is they find that flying underwater ship. I guess that's just a submarine. But yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So yeah, this sounds like a cool idea.
It's a fun idea.
I love the idea. I've never done a full underwater campaign, but I have often done like underwater sessions or underwater segments, and those are always fun. Now that you mentioned it, I'm kind of like into this idea, and I want to do a little bit of tweaking myself and see if I can make this work or do some research, because it would be fun to do a purely aquatic campaign, but one that takes place under the waves.
Noob DM, we will leave you with the words of the poet. There is water at the bottom of the ocean.
Also, that's where it's better, down where it's wetter, under the sea. You got a good idea, Noob DM. Thank you. I've got one more from, this one is from W. W writes, Comrades, last summer, while fighting a fire in Northern California, my crew had to pull a 30-hour shift in order to attempt to save a town. The culmination of the night was starting a backburn using drip torches in an attempt to counter the wildfire that was screaming towards us. Yes, screaming. Wildfire through grass components with the right wind can make noises roughly akin to a soul attempting to escape some warped form of planar torture, and when you haven't slept in a day or two, the exhaustion-addled mind can easily become spooked.
Jesus Christ. Holy shit.
To summarize, our controlled fire slammed into the road fire, and they were both snuffed out. For some reason, after 16 years of not having played D&D, my first thought was, is that what would happen if two equally powered wizards launched Fireball at each other at the same time? This is William's question, and we're going to come back to it, but I want to finish this letter before we
God damn.
The next day, while attempting
what a great letter. This top tier letter already.
Yeah. The next day, while attempting to sleep through the heat and failing, I looked up D&D podcast and stumbled upon yours. For the rest of the summer, your pod was my companion all over the West, and even during some time fighting fire in the tundra. During the winter, I listened to the rest of your archived work while training for the summer, and it is with great sadness that I finished the last one today. My season starts on Tuesday, so the timing worked out perfectly. Anyway, this is a rambling email. But I wanted to thank you both for sharing this podcast and reminding me how much I loved D&D. I started playing after the fire season and DMing as well. My wife, who was charmed by the fact that her chewing tobacco-loving, chainsaw-using husband started talking about kobolds and the failures of fancy and casting. Listened to the pod you did on consent and wanted me to also give you her thanks. Well, thank you very much. Parting words, Wildland Fire crews are very similar to adventuring parties. Hotshot crews have 20 people that break into 10-person modules. Among those 10, you have the Sawyers, fighter and barbarian types, the medic, cleric/paladin, squad boss, something akin to your warlord class, etc. No Pasaron, W.
Thank you so much for this letter.
An amazing letter, and this was so interesting, because one of my best friends in the world and my old roommate is a wilderness firefighter, and I thought that maybe this might be him trying to slip in, but I don't know that he has the patience, or he's a good writer, but he's also not married, and so I don't think that this is my friend Chris writing under an assumed name, but I because he and I talked so much about wilderness firefighting, I really greatly appreciate this letter, W, and yeah, so thank you so much for writing.
This rocks. You rock. Thank you for doing a good thing.
Thank you for fighting fires. I'm glad that we were able to ignite your passion. Now let's answer your question, which is a good one. And Matt I know has done some extensive research into this question about Fireball.
Well, so I was thinking back to Fireball and its historical evolution as a spell, which originally with Lightning Bolt, Fireball and Lightning Bolt, where Fireball was a catapult and just a conversion from the chainmail miniature system for that.
Didn't you have
Lightning
to do
Bell,
volume calculations? Like if you cast it in a dungeon?
That was what I'm getting to next.
Sorry.
I will read you. Oh, that's a great segue. I'll go ahead and read you. In older editions, this was the actual ruling. The fireball fills an area equal to its normal spherical volume, 20-foot radius, same as it is today, roughly 33,000 cubic feet, 33 feet, 10 foot by 10 foot by 10 foot cubes. So you had to, if you cast it inside, it could sometimes basically take up the entire dungeon, right? And I was thinking, well, if two slam together, if they hit each other from equally leveled wizards doing it at the same time, that would mean that wouldn't they sort of block each other off so they would also get bigger and become half spheres with the same volume, but then an extended radius. I think that means they're...
I can see it. I can see a ruling either way, that they impact and the two equal and opposite reactions cancel each other out, or they merge and create an even more powerful explosion, right? So, okay, so I don't know what happens if you throw a grenade at another grenade. Like, what happens if you shoot a rocket launcher and it hits another rocket in midair?
So, I mean, the answer is, something cool happens, right?
Right. That
is the answer. They cancel each other out and create a 10-round area of wild magic.
Mm-hmm.
Or, a permanent fireball that lasts a number of rounds equal to the caster level.
Yeah.
Or they merge into an uber fireball that blows back and hits both of the casters. Or it,
creates, they cancel each other out, but it creates a rift to the plane of fire or something like that. I could see... I think it would be cool... this was purely flavor, but maybe one of your wizards or casters might be like, this is how I counterspell the fireball, right? I create an equal fireball designed to cancel out the, like a backburn, right? I have created this, fire spell to absorb and, cancel out, deconstruct the opposing spell. But
now I want to create a sorcerer named Robin Backburn who wears fireproof cloaks and is a master of fire magic, but is dedicated to counterspelling rogue pyromancers.
This is not the same thing, but I have long wanted to create a sorcerer, like a dragonkin or tiefling sorcerer whose whole shtick is just standing in the middle of her own fireballs. Or walls of fire, or fire sphere, just dropping hellfire on top of herself, and just being resistant to it or having absorption. But I also somebody who's like a mystical firefighter whose only job is to counterspell or dispel other fighters or other fires from rogue wizards and pyromancers and whatnot.
There's a more rare player class, the firefighter, who is just a rogue who lights fighters on fire. The fire.
William,
top three things that happen. Rift to a plane of fire, giant fireball, blowback, or area of wild magic.
Here's the thing: if my DM were like, "Oh, you've cast a fireball at the same time in the same space," they cancel each other out. I'd be like, "Whoa, that's cool." I would not. I don't know that the rules support that, but I would support that ruling, I guess.
In old editions, you used to be able to counterspell spells with that spell. But I think one option is you go back to Dungeon Master of None and listen to Rob read W's description of two fires meeting each other whistling through the grass. And read that for your players, because that was a beautiful description, W. I have one final comment, Rob, about our letter writer's mention of how a fire crew is like a party. Obviously, W, this is probably not what you want to do, because this is your life. But I did buy and find after getting this email, because my partner watches a lot of Station 19, which is basically a role-playing game drama about firefighters, and I'm sure all real firefighters hate it or whatever. But I found a Fate supplement, Worlds of Fire. It was only $15 for the PDF. That had rules for creating a firefighter party and adventure, and it seemed very episodic and fun. You dealt with fires, and then you dealt with your emotions.
you love to see it. You love some fight fires and then emotions, as we all must do. Okay, thank you so much for writing, W. Thank you everybody who wrote us. We will get to some more letters as soon as we possibly can.
Very soon.
If you do have a letter or thoughts, please write to us at dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter at dmofnone.
Or you can call us. We got a couple voicemails to play at the Dungeon Master Hotline, 771-203-7764. Almost forgot.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy.
Fight the fires. Sorry, I forgot to mention, since our last bonus episode, there is another Black AF roundtable by prominent Black creators in the TTRPG community. If you listen to the first one, you should also listen to the second one. I think it, we should all listen to it. Probably more important than this podcast, for sure. So
listen to that
take
first.
Take a listen to that. We'll include a link in the description.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep rolling them dice.